8 consecutive wins for Chelsea. Prior to now, 4 without a win. And as we got to the end of those 8 consecutive wins, we didn't know they were going to stop at 8. We were starting to ask the question, are they title contenders? Then the question was asked to Enzo Maresca. And once he said, yeah, I suppose we are, Janusz, they haven't won since. What's going on with Chelsea, and why couldn't they hold on to a lead today at Selhurst Park against Palace?
Yeah, today I feel for them a little bit, right? I mean, I'm just looking at Premier League right now. The last 3, obviously, disappointing. The ones, the 2 losses to Ipswich and Fulham. Although you can explain to them derbies, just like today, or at least the Fulham derby, they're very good this season as well. Ipswich fighting for their lives. It happens. I'm disappointed today because I thought they managed the game relatively well. In the first half they had so many chances. I don't even want to go on, but Jackson. If you remember that cutback from Pedro Neto, that was Cole Palmer. My apologies. Achimpong, the header. I know he's 18 years old. He's young, but he's got to score that. Put that on target. Nicholas Jackson won. So go on. You can go on, and I think that in the second half, it seems that Palace was coming into the game. But every time they came into the game, I thought that Chelsea had an answer, right? I mean, you look at Palace and their chances were, a chance here, maybe half chance there. But Chelsea continued to answer that. And on top of that, I think it was a clear penalty that was missed. I don't understand why. For me, we're at that stage, as I manage, I think a relatively well-controlled game by Chelsea. They scored that second goal, and I think from then on, you'd like to say that Chelsea are going to see 3 points. So that certainly was a mistake from the officials for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. One of your favourite topics to discuss when we speak Chelsea is Nicholas Jackson. He went through a decent spell, but now it's just 1 goal in his last 7 game weeks in the Premier League. Could Chelsea be looking at signing a striker in the January transfer window, or him and Nkunku? Is that enough for Chelsea right now?
They could be. I mean, we're hearing that Nkunku, Maresca wants him to stay, but he doesn't play in key games, right? So I don't know where that goes. I wouldn't concentrate on that. Look. Let me just go from here. I like almost everything about Chelsea. I really do, because I see a blueprint. I saw a game today where they showed they could keep possession and be cultured. Did you see that first goal? I didn't count the passes, but how many passes? Changing the point of attack, sending the ball back to Sanchez and rebuilding the attack. And then you have Jadon Sancho with a brilliant move and, sets up a great goal for a key player that's scoring goals as well, right? Cole Palmer as well. And then you saw Chelsea on a counter. They were so dangerous. I mentioned all those chances. So Pedro Neto working so hard. He wasn't squeaky clean today when sloppy at times, but his work rate and, when he needed to be important, he was at times. Maybe not his best game, but certainly I like him on the right side much more than I liked him on the left side at Wolves. He plays that position for Portugal as well. So there's a lot to be liked. And Maresca was telling us, obviously, that they're not ready yet. Remember, you and I talking about it, and I said, my message would be to tell the players, you're ready. Just send that message, which I'm sure he was. But today they didn't see it through. Ultimately, Mateta is a handful. We saw that throughout the game, and we see that every time he plays for Crystal Palace as well. And they got caught. Cole Palmer. Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily his goal, right? I mean, that ball comes to him surrounded by 2 players. By the way, I think it was a good goal there. I wouldn't be looking for a handball. I mean, it's half a yard between the players. So, but I also wouldn't necessarily put it on him. What do we expect? That when the ball comes every time, what a player's supposed to do? Sometimes it's just a kind of forced mistake. I give Palace more credit than I put it on Cole Palmer. So it's not all great, but I like the blueprint. I like what's happening. I see what Chelsea are trying to do, Mark, right? Maresca is trying to teach these young players. As I've said, I see a transitional game, counter-attacking game. I see possession what's needed. This is a young team that I think right now is listening to their manager. And remember when we talked about lack of identity in the past with Chelsea, past seasons? Mm-hmm. I certainly see it here. So, 2 points dropped. They're big, but I think, when you look at Chelsea as a whole, they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's good. I think it's good the fact that you've put it into context, because we'll get to Palace in just a second, because they were a goal down and ended up with a much needed point. But if I'm a Chelsea fan, just at the wider media, I could say, look, you've absolutely hammered our team in the summer. You've gone on about all these players when Enzo Maresca said, look, I've only got 20. That's the 20 I'm going to concentrate on, or a similar number. Then we've had a kind of all right start to the season. Then we've gone on this run, and suddenly you're saying title contenders. Now we're 4 without a win. Suddenly you're saying, oh, yeah, Chelsea, what's happened to them? The hyperbole here seems a little bit off the charts. I'm just trying to get some balance. So I'm glad you added some context there. So the question simply has to be, what are Chelsea right now? What should be their target between now and the end of the season?
Well, I mean, clearly, top 4, get the results, get as much as you can, squeeze out of the season while learning, right? I mean, there's going to be these situations right now where obviously this is a team that's not whole yet. I mean, the balance we're starting to see, but certainly defensively, they have some holes, and that's part of the injuries. I mean, you know, Achimpong comes in here, didn't have to start, right? I mean, they had Toss in there, but, you know, he's been good coming off the bench. I think Maresca is definitely looking at these young players. He wants this team to be dynamic. I think he's still asking for this team to be much better in terms of pressing, ball recovery, winning the ball much higher up the pitch and a little bit quicker. I thought the start wasn't great. They're missing that tempo. And I think the tempo is everything for Chelsea and Maresca, just as it was for Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. We're going to get onto that game a little bit later on, right? Because that's certainly gone, and you can see how a team can change. Maresca coming from Manchester City, we see Arteta and Arsenal, and the tempo is super important. I don't think that's there yet. So I think everybody's there surprised. I think that Maresca himself would probably admit to say, well, we're ahead of schedule here a little bit. And maybe that's why the pressure and the hyperbole created by, I don't know whom really, maybe us in the media to some degree. But yeah, you know, top 4 this year, it's up and down. It's probably achievable, although you have 6-7 teams vying for it.
Yeah, the good thing is top 5 is likely to get into Champions League group
there you go.
For next season with the extra spot. Just one final thing about Chelsea. They can't become Cole Palmer FC because he's such a good player, but he needs help. And it's getting to the stage where opposition are going, right, if we need to do 2 or 3 players around him. And he scored the opening goal against Fulham. Chelsea should have got 3 points there, didn't. He's got the opening goal today. Chelsea should have got 3 points at Palace, didn't. So they need a little bit of help from other players, Chelsea, to help out Cole Palmer, because there's only so much he can do despite the talent that he has. Now, Crystal Palace, are they good or not as good as the sum of their parts with their results? Because Eze back from injury. I know Elise is lost, but Munoz down the right-hand side is basically a winger in this kind of formation that Glasner plays. Mateta, decent in attack. And Ismail Assar, really good player. So are they underachieving for what they have?
Maybe a little bit, but, you know, it's a function of the season, right? When you have a manager that's, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking, I mean, obviously as he came in, lit the world on fire to a degree in the Crystal Palace world, right? You can say that. Then the season starts in such way and you're scrambling a little bit, but they've bounced, right? They've kept their poise in terms of keeping the manager. So I think that they are where they always are, right? I mean, you know, the big losses, you know, if it's Zaha in the past or Michael Olise, I mean, that's massive for a club like Crystal Palace, right? They kept Eze, but he's been in and out as well, some injuries here and there. He's such an important part of that team. Mateta, I think they're extremely happy with him because you can see, you know, with his physique and his strength, the dangers he poses. And he posed those dangers throughout the game for Chelsea, right? It's not an easy task to get to him. Sometimes you need a couple players as well. I think they're relatively strong with Lerma and the Kure. In the back, you know, you have Guehi that everybody seemed to want. Lacroix has been, you know, pretty good. You know, I think we're all learning about him a little bit, but I'm warming up to him more and more. Henderson's been good. So I think they're, you know, I get where you're going with this. I think they're underachieving, but that's just part of this up and down season where you're not sure which direction your team's going to do. There's always that threat of relegation with Crystal Palace. It seems that way. Then they make you believe that they can make Europe, right? It's been like this, it seems, for me for the last 2, 3, 4 seasons as well. So I think this is an important result because it may be just the one that kind of settles the team a little bit. A win against Southampton was big. We all remember, I mean, what Arsenal did to him. Was it 5-1? So yeah, I mean, I think they're just being Crystal Palace, but I think they're kind of going in that direction where hopefully in the next couple of games you're going to see Palace kind of in that safe mode that we usually see in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I just like watching them. I just love watching Palace. I think they've got really good individual players, and they're just as capable of losing a shocker at home to a team like Southampton or Ipswich as they are to go to Manchester City and pick up 3 points. It's the unpredictable nature of Crystal Palace which makes them worth watching. Okay, let's move on. The other featured game for us this morning, we were keeping tabs on, was Manchester City 4, West Ham 1.